A top Trump official promises prosecution of local and state leaders over immigration policy as Colorado starts to set aside millions of dollars to fight it. The Trump administration is wiping away records of the accomplishments of women and people of color in the military, like the Coloradan who made history with the Thunderbirds.
I can't believe something like this is happening in the country whose uniform I wore.
She wants her job in Congress back. First, she'll have to convince her party that she's the right choice. And an act of love and remembrance for a sweet dog that loved to steal tennis balls on her walks.
We've given away over 3,000 balls in the first year and really just only expect that to get bigger and bigger.
That's tonight on Next. Federal judge in Colorado is temporarily slowing down the fast-track system the Trump administration is using to send immigrants, sometimes without criminal records, down to a brutal prison in El Salvador. The Trump administration continues to talk about sending American citizens there as well. Our Angeline McCall looks at the judge's ruling in Colorado that will keep some ICE detainees here for now.
Men staying at the Aurora detention facility for now protected from being deported to El Salvador, a protection in place for just 2 weeks. It stems from this lawsuit filed by the ACLU, initially on behalf of 2 men believed to be in imminent danger of being removed from the United States to El Salvador because of their supposed ties to Tren de Aragua. The filing is in response to the Trump administration using the Alien Enemies Act and deporting people with notice of 24 hours or less. Now here, within the last 24 hours, a judge expanded that protection from just the 2 men to all of those who the government has identified as being potentially gang-affiliated, currently detained in Colorado. It stops their removal, not just to El Salvador, but any other state, in an effort for them to receive a hearing or some kind of due process. As the ACLU alleges, the Trump administration is bypassing the immigration laws that Congress enacted. The ACLU laid out in their lawsuit that they know the government believes there are around 258 TDA members nationwide, which was news to us.
Yeah. So when you look at the Trump administration's arguments in this Maryland case, this father who's down there, basically they're telling this district judge kind of like, up yours. Like, I mean, they really are encouraging her to take sanctions against them. They're defying her pretty openly.
Yeah, and actually in a conversation I had with an immigration attorney who had a chance to sort of review this lawsuit, she talked about a concern that as the Trump administration defies this court order with this Maryland father, why wouldn't the Trump administration defy something like this? That's a real concern for advocates and immigration attorneys who are reviewing these types of files. All right, we will be watching. Angeline McCall, thank you. Today, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, said the prosecution of leaders of so-called sanctuary cities and states is coming. Democrats at the state capitol want to set up a $4 million legal defense fund for state leaders, money that could also be used to try and protect Colorado's interests if the Trump administration tries to claw back federal funding. Today, the State House advanced the Democrats' bill to give Governor Jared Polis's office control over $4 million the state previously set aside to match federal grants. The bill's sponsors want to use that funding to hire additional staff to fight against future federal funding freezes, money they say has already been promised to Colorado. Hundreds of millions of dollars across various federal agencies have been abruptly frozen and in some cases then unfrozen.
We are in uncharted territory. In this moment where federal funding has been frozen, we have examples of that with Medicaid, SNAP, and numerous individual grants. We need to have the flexibility to respond to protect the state's interests.
House Republicans are united against this bill at the Capitol, but they don't have enough votes to stop anything. Today, they echoed Trump's language about enemies of the state.
I don't think that there should be something funding a sanctuary state, funding something that makes us look like political enemies, or as a state, we are enemies of the state.
That money could also be used to fund work by the Attorney General's office to defend state leaders against federal prosecution or congressional inquiries. The city of Denver set aside $2 million to handle a congressional investigation that led to a Republican member of the House referring Denver Mayor Mike Johnston for federal prosecution. The Trump administration has been erasing the accomplishments of women and people of color in a way by taking down articles about them from government websites, including articles about a Coloradan who was the first woman to fly with the Air Force Thunderbirds. The Air Force was pretty direct with our Mark Salinger. They said that her story was erased because it was considered diversity, equity, and inclusion.
there are certain people you meet
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Nicole Malachowski.
who immediately stand out as incredibly impressive. Nicole Malachowski is one of them.
Yes, sure. I flew F-15E Strike Eagles in 3 operational fighter squadrons. I had the privilege of commanding a fighter squadron, and I also served as a pilot with the United States Air Force Thunderbirds and was, in fact, the first woman to do so.
Nicole is a retired U.S. Air Force colonel. She served our country for 21 years. Plenty of articles have been written about her and published to military websites.
When you click on that link, it'll literally say 404, page not found.
Now some of those articles have been removed. The military says the topics are considered diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI.
And it's been really just shocking to me to see that we would censor the historical fact, the historical stories, the historical contributions of service members and veterans.
Stories about Nicole with headlines like, "A Life in Flight for First Woman Thunderbirds Pilot" used to be on military websites. Now they've been taken down. An Air Force public affairs team called me today to say they were removed in compliance with President Trump's directives to remove DE&I content.
There was indeed a time when women and minorities could not serve in our military. There was indeed a time when women and minorities could not, fly aircraft in defense of their country. And so for us to act like those barriers never happened or those barriers were never broken is to completely ignore our history.
Nicole says other female aviators have experienced the same thing.
I can't believe something like this is happening in the country whose uniform I wore.
Now she's questioning why her accomplishments can no longer be celebrated by the military she served.
For us to turn around and say you're good enough to serve but not good enough to be remembered is a complete slap in the face.
It's been well reported around the country that the Trump administration has worked to remove content that they consider DEI from government websites. The Air Force Public Affairs team didn't hesitate to tell me that's the reason that these articles about Nicole were purged. They say they're following the president's directive, Kyle. It's interesting. There has been public pushback on this. You saw it when they took down articles about Jackie Robinson, which have now been replaced, it's our understanding. And those have gone back up. But for somebody like her, who obviously has great accomplishments but is not a household name, this is the kind of stuff that can just vanish into the ether. And that's why she's speaking out, because she wants to keep these stories alive. She's not doing it, she says, because she wants to more people to know her story in particular, but she says that these stories inspire others. That young girl who wants to be a pilot that sees this government website and says, I can do that because she did. Mark Salinger, thank you. History made in Denver today as a federal jury convicted a man accused of torturing political opponents on behalf of a dictator in West Africa. Human rights advocacy organizations say that this is a precedent-setting case that could open the doors for the prosecution of other international human rights violations. After a week-long trial, a jury convicted former Gambian military official Michael Correa of 5 counts of torture and 1 count of conspiracy to commit torture. Federal prosecutors say Correa was a member of a hit squad that tortured the opponents of Gambian President Yahya Jammeh back in 2006, and that Correa fled to the United States after Jammeh's administration was overthrown. Survivors came to Colorado last week to testify about the torture they endured. Correa's attorneys argued he was just a low-ranking guy and didn't have any choice but to participate in that torture. This is only the 3rd criminal case to be successfully prosecuted after Jammeh was overthrown in Gambia, despite a Gambian government commission naming 70 people who could face charges. We spoke with a Gambian journalist covering the trial. She says this conviction gives hope to victims in her country.
Well, we cannot try these cases right now. We barely have started much prosecution. This is the 3rd universal jurisdiction trial. Seeing that justice, even if it's far away, is at least being done is really significant.
The Justice Department says Correa faces up to 120 years in prison. Former Democratic Congresswoman Yadira Caraveo is running for her old seat, now occupied by Republican Rep. Gabe Evans. Before Caraveo can get her rematch against Evans, she will need to get through a Democratic primary, where she'll likely be asked to explain why she voted for so many controversial Republican-backed measures. Caraveo lost to Evans by fewer than 2,500 votes in 2024. Evans, since he was elected, has been a reliable supporter of President Trump, backing Trump's worldwide tariffs and supporting the Republican budget blueprint that calls for $880 billion in cuts by the committee that oversees Medicaid. Caraveo said today that she's running because Evans is stripping Medicaid from residents in the 8th Congressional District. That's Colorado's most competitive congressional district. It stretches from Denver's northern suburbs up to Weld County. 1 in 4 people there are on Medicaid. Caraveo She pivoted hard to the center-right when she joined Congress. She went from calling for ICE immigration agents to be defunded to voting with Republicans to condemn Vice President Kamala Harris for handling of border issues. Caraveo said during a 9 News debate that she was not voting her own personal values. She was instead trying to vote her district's values in Congress. She repeatedly voted with Republicans on controversial measures, sometimes without any explanation or comment from her team. Caraveo is going to face a well-funded opponent in the Democratic primary. That is State Rep Manny Rutnell. He has raised a whopping $1.1 million, and he'll likely be running to Caraveo's progressive left. A new report questions President Biden's decision to keep Space Command in Colorado Springs and hints that it could be on the move again.
This is a dog-loving community, so everybody loves each other's dogs, and it's great.
The dogs in Denver's Jefferson Park neighborhood have a gold mine in memory of a much-loved pet. That's next. A campaign finance complaint against Democratic Secretary of State Jena Griswold is about to be dismissed. Team Griswold may have jumped the gun on reserving a website for her run for governor, but the Attorney General's office says it was not illegal. Griswold's plans to run for governor evaporated with her much-criticized handling of a voting machine password leak out of her office last year. Now she's running for Attorney General as a consolation prize. Back in December, our Marshall Zellinger stumbled upon the website JenaForGovernor.com because, man, that Marshall, he is just a curious cat. And it was weird, though, that he found that website because Jena Griswold had not announced a campaign for governor, and she would have been required to report that before, like spending money on it. As Secretary of State, she is the one who oversees campaign finance laws, which require public disclosures when someone's a candidate. But Griswold's brother and advisor said he set up the website just in case she ran for governor. A conservative nonprofit called the Public Trust Institute filed a campaign finance complaint over it. Our partners at the Denver Gazette were first to report this week that the Attorney General's office, which reviewed the complaint, is going to dismiss it. That order is not official until early May. The AG's office's investigation found that Jena Griswold did not tell her brother to set up the website for her run for governor and didn't know about it until that pesky Marshall Zellinger reported on it. Space Command has been turned into a traveling circus through no fault of its own. Its headquarters whiplash back and forth from Colorado to Alabama, depending on whether there's a Democrat or a Republican in the White House. Now, a new review from the Defense Department Inspector General says it's not clear why Colorado was chosen over Alabama in the first place. Near the end of Donald Trump's first term, the Air Force picked Huntsville, Alabama as preferred location for Space Command. Temporary headquarters were already in Colorado Springs, and after a number of delays, then President Biden announced Colorado as the permanent headquarters, said it would take too long to relocate the staff. The Inspector General's report released today said the Biden administration refused to answer further questions about the decision to stop the move to Alabama. Alabama Rep. Mike Rogers, Republican, said he expects that decision to be reversed by President Trump before the end of the month. So back to Alabama it would go. It's a rare issue that's united the Colorado congressional delegation across party lines. They all say Space Command should stay here.
A beautiful spring day. Hello in Fort Collins and Greeley, where everything is so green. The wind, which was a little gusty early this morning, has come down and temperatures have come up. 72 our new high in Denver, 82 in Lamar, good 10 degrees above average. A few high clouds are coming in. Temperatures still mild. Sun doesn't set until 7:37. We're still 70 in downtown Denver. Watching the wind over elevated terrain, but that downsloping wind is going to bring elevated fire danger the next 2 days. But on the radar and satellite, we're seeing some beneficial showers in the form of rain and snow over the Four Corners area and southern mountains, even a little thunder and lightning. Denver stays dry for the next few days, with just an isolated foothill shower and just some passing high clouds. Temperatures will be comfortable tonight. We started at 28 today and again warm to 72. Tonight's low will stay in the mid-40s. 7-day forecast, warm and dry for Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday night we have rain showers mixing with snow Friday, the coldest day of the week at 40. Clearing out after some morning snow Saturday, and thankfully Easter sunrise services looks like we're going to have good weather for that, and your Easter Sunday high at 61. Sunshine in 60s through Monday and Tuesday.
A dog in Denver had a little habit, stealing tennis balls during her daily walks. With her now gone, her owners are giving them out by the thousands. Hey, reminder, you can catch Next streaming each night, 6 p.m. on 9 News Plus, and Next is now a podcast each weeknight, wherever you get your podcasts. Those little free libraries are all over town, which is great unless you're a dog on a walk and you can't read the books. Their equivalent treat can be found in the Jefferson Park neighborhood of Denver. Our Byron Reed has that.
Every dog has its favorite toy.
This is Dory, that she's just turned 1.
For Joe Abdella and Haley Bittman, their dog Dory has a few.
She'll give you any ball she wants, doesn't care.
But it was their previous pet, Indy, that lived up to being a golden retriever who had a habit of playing fetch with other dogs' toys.
Indy's favorite things were her tennis balls, orange balls, getting pup cups up the street, and just invading your personal space.
Last year, 5-year-old Indy was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of cancer. 2 days later, she passed away.
It was really hard. It was a tough decision, but we hung on the fact that Indy never had a bad day.
Now, Haley and Joe have created a dog library close to Jefferson Park in honor of Indy to give back.
Indy was always great at getting the balls, but never really giving back. So when we thought about this dog library, she's now, from afar, completing the full circuit of a good girl and giving fetch, right?
The library is filled with upcycled tennis balls to keep Indy's spirit alive.
So we had tons of other balls that just weren't hers that we collected over the years, and we figured, okay, we got to give these back to the community somehow. And that's kind of how we came up with the idea for Indy's Dog Library.
So far, they've given away more than 3,000 tennis balls to neighborhood dog owners.
Say thank you.
And they're hoping to hand out more.
I mean, it feels great. Yeah, this is a dog-loving community, so everybody loves each other's dogs, and it's great.
Haley and Joe hope the library will create a new excitement for dogs who want a special toy they can call their own.
They get excited like it's the first time they've seen it every single time, even if it's the third time they've walked by that day. So it's special, and it's exactly how Indy would react if she were seeing it for the first time too.
For Next,
just bringing joy to the block, joy to the neighborhood, makes you remember our time with Indy, and also, new owners and their dogs creating new memories that they can carry on.
I'm Byron Reed.
What a gift. We got feedback, Marilyn, that I should stop asking you each night if your arm is broken. So is it still mending?
Oh, it's mending.
It's mending, everybody. Still mending. And we're back with your feedback next. A ton of feedback about Mark Salinger's reporting tonight. John says, to see Air Force Colonel Malkowski's history-making story removed from the Air Force website is a complete disgrace. He writes, a slap in the face to her service. Mallory writes in to say thank you for the story about the woman Thunderbird and the other women pilots. Mallory says, my grandmother was a WASP, Women Air Service pilot in World War II. She says what those women did was incredible, paved the way for women flying today. Their stories should never be forgotten. Divergent viewpoint from David, who writes in to say, why wasn't there outrage when renaming Stapleton or Mount Evans? David says both sides are whitewashing history. Well, David, I think if we were to look at the three examples here, you've got Stapleton, KKK, you've got Evans, instigated a massacre, and you've got Malkowski, a woman. Seems like her offense might not be as serious as the other two, but that could just be me.